So I cut off about 80% of my beard, and I'm not wearing a suit or any of that. But that's okay, because that's not, an indicator of who I am. My identity is not wrapped up in how I look, how I'm perceived by other people. My identity is not wrapped up in even my gender or any such external things. What is it that defines me? What is it that defines you? If people want to know who you are, what do you use as a disclaimer, as a describer of who you are? You might give your family name, you might give your gender, you might give other things like that. But in this world today, I think some of the good that we can take from some of the discussions going on is that we need to get back down to the things at their core, at their foundation. What are we? Who are we? Who I am is wrapped up in who Jesus Christ is. If I'm honest, if I'm going to be transparent about all those things, most of the things that identify me with who I am, they change from time to time. I can't decide, I can't live in such a way where the identifying markers of who I am are things like my externals, my beard, jokingly earlier. But if you look around, there's a lot of people that their clothing, their music, their car they drive, the neighborhood they live in, the demographic that they're in, the career they have, the college they went to, those become the defining factors of their life. Their skin color, their sexual orientation, things like that. All those things are things we'll discuss in life and we'll talk with people about, but that's not really who I am. That which defines me is what God says about me, not so much what I say about myself. And if I come to Colossians chapter 3 and I start reading verse 1, I read this: "Therefore, if you have been raised up with Christ," that is, if you're a Christian, if you're a person who calls yourself a child of God, a follower of Jesus Christ, keep seeking the things above. So if you are this, then you do that. That's what Colossians chapter 3, the whole chapter really is about. But if you are a child of God, then there are things you are going to do, you're going to need to do. The child of God should keep seeking the things above, where Christ is. That's where my treasure is. He is my goal, my aspiration, my motivation. He's my trailblazer. He's the one who I fix my eyes on, and I seek to amend my behavior to look like His. I keep seeking the things above because that's where my treasure is. That's where my Christ is, seated at the right hand of God, victorious and risen, eternal and living. Then he says, verse 2, "Set your mind on the things above, not on the things that are on earth." All the stuff that's here, all the identifying markers that I typically use as the kind of the signpost for my life, a lot of those things, they just need to disappear as far as being a priority in my life. Set your mind on the things that are above with Christ, and let the rest start to fall. Mary and Martha. Don't concern yourself so much with the details of all these things. There's one thing that's necessary. Choose the one thing. Furthermore, he says in verse 3, "Why is it that I should set my mind on the things above and not on the things that are on earth? Why should I have my mind up in the heavenlies with Christ? Why should I do that? For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God." Here is the reality about me. Here is what needs to be cemented in my thinking and then therefore in my living. I have died. My life is hidden with Christ. When the child of God gets a hold of that particular truth, that you died to sin and that your life is actually in Christ with Him, it starts to reroute your thinking. Now, it doesn't happen just by reading this and moving on. This is a truth that I have to, that you have to as a child of God, sit and meditate on and then consider, what does that start to do in my life? How does that meditating on that particular truth that I died and my life is hidden with Christ, how does that have ongoing ramifications in my actions? He says in verse 4, when Christ, who is your life, is revealed, then you also will be revealed with him in glory. This is where my focus ought to be, because this is where all my hopes and dreams lie. The little statement in there, he says, when Christ is revealed, in between those two phrases there, he says, who is your life? What an awesome little caveat that is. Jesus isn't just someone who's a spectator in my life. He is my life. Jesus isn't someone who's in the bleachers and cheering me on. He's within me, moving me forward. When Christ, who is our life, is revealed, then you will also be revealed with him. The reality will become visible. This is where everything that I'm hoping for has its manifestation in Christ. And as a result of who I am, as a result of my identity, who I am being wrapped up in everything that Jesus Christ is, all this glory then follows. And that's a great mountaintop to be on mentally, to consider that's who I really am. I'm not this thing that I see in the mirror so much. I'm not this person, I tend to be pessimistic. I'm not this person who everything I do isn't all that good and I could always do better and all that kind of stuff. That's not who I am. Who I am is what God defines me to be, not what everyone else around me says. I have to let his words be my reality. What he says about me is what is true. And as I dwell on that mountaintop, on that thought, then it's supposed to have daily ramifications, which is what the rest of this chapter is about. It gets down into the duties of husbands and wives and children and fathers and slaves and basically every category of life. How do I behave? What constrains and controls my behavior? Well, if I'm just running around trying to play whack-a-mole with my behavior and try to stop doing this and stop doing that, and I haven't gotten back to this central reality of who it is that I am at my core, at my foundation, then everything is going to be just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. I need to know who I am in Christ. I need to know who I am before God and what he says about me. When I know that, everything else starts to make sense. It's the key that unlocks the door. I hope that if you study, if you consider long enough who you are, if you look at the word and what it says, that it has changed your behavior. I trust that it has. I trust that when you go through passages like this, you don't miss such foundational and fundamental points. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you another time.